please click the subscribe button and the notification icon. It will help us a lot. Hi, this is Rodrigo from Level Up, and today guest I have here Quentin Vanhaelen, which is the director of the Virtual Human Project at Insilico Medicine. Now, this is a really cool company because they are trying to do research on biomarker development and agent research as well using artificial intelligence. So they are trying to use pretty much deep learning to kind of identify certain components of the human body so that they can create medicines that can advance longevity in all mankind. Insilico Medicine had just got his Series B approved on September, getting $37 million. And I think that this is a very complex project that I truly have a lot of enthusiasm about because I'm really kind of excited. I'm really excited about medicine that can prevent aging or even improve our lifetime in this earth. So, and if you do not know about it, the kind of medicines that will allow us to live longer, they are getting researched right now, and they are making huge advances. So I'm really happy to have you here, Quentin. Welcome.
Hello everyone. So thank you for this nice introduction, and I'm glad to be here today with you as well.
So can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and how did Insilico Medicine got started? What gave you the idea to start using artificial intelligence to kind of do research on medicine?
Yes, so myself, I'm from Belgium initially, from Brussels, and initially I have a training in theoretical physics. And after my PhD in theoretical physics, I started to be interested in how basically you can describe biological systems using mathematics, essentially. And I went to Ottawa to do a postdoc where basically I was working as a bioinformatician for stem cell research. So the idea was also to understand how stem cell works in order to, in the future, to actually use stem cell to regenerate some part of the body. This is another area of research which is currently a very hot topic in various parts of the world, including in the US. So then I came back actually to Belgium to continue this work, and I met actually Alex Zavaronkov, who is the current CEO of Insilico Medicine, at a conference about aging. So it was already the main subject, so how you can actually use the understanding of how biology and human body is working to actually try to improve it. So to fight diseases and also to fight, to understand what aging is and how you can use the technology to actually control, manage, or even cure some side effect which is coming with aging. So the fact is, how we see aging, that's a big question, because there is no unique definition of what aging is. But what we can see is that as you get older, what happens is that in your body you can see that you have a lot of systems, organs at cellular or molecular levels, and you have a lot of mechanisms which starts showing some difficulty to function correctly. And as all of those dysfunctionalities aggregate all together, what happens is that you have some very unique diseases which usually happens as you get older. So it might be cancer, Parkinson, or cardiovascular disease, for instance. And the fact is that initially, I think a few decades ago, it was very difficult to get an understanding of this process because the human body is probably the most complex system human itself has to study, because it's complex. You have a lot of proteins, genes, you have different level of, what happened at the genomic level, you have what happens, how the proteins are interacting together, how the organs interact together, and everything like this. What happens in the two last decades, I would say, is that you had a lot of improvement, new technology, which allow actually the laboratories and researchers to actually gather data describing how this is working. And more recently, you had a lot of, so they had all this data and they try to make sense of it. That's the key. So you have this huge set of data describing everything you could imagine about your body at different level, and you can try to make sense of it to understand what is going on, or you can use this information to find a cure for a specific disease or condition you want to solve. And so this is all about computational power. So recently we had those technologies, so we call deep learning and machine learning, which is a flavor of machine learning, which basically allow actually to extract from this data much more information in a much more efficient way that it was possible before. And at Insilico Medicine, the idea currently is to use this very specific technology in different areas, which is related to medicine and also aging, which is, as you mentioned, trying to identify biomarker of aging. So it means some kind of condition you can follow in the body, which can tell you what is your biological age, and also if you get older faster than you should, or if you look younger. So if there is any trouble within your body. So the idea of a biomarker in general is that it can help you to predict or detect if you have any, for example, disease or onset of cancer. Now you have a lot of deep learning methods, for example, which can be used to actually predict very well in advance if you are subject to, for example, to have specific type of disease. So this is one of the aspects. Another aspect is that when we are talking about aging, we are talking in practice currently how you can cure and solve a lot of diseases which occur as you get older. And so this is meaning you need to come with new treatment, and new treatment means you need to come with a new drug, essentially. And now there is a big situation now. You have a lot of big pharma companies, and they spend a lot of money and in research development to actually find those new treatments. But it's become harder and harder for different kind of reasons. So the number of new molecules which are accepted or get FDA approval every year is actually declining, and they face also a lot of pressure from a social point of view, economic point of view, to come with new treatment faster. And so from this perspective, one of the core business of Insilico Medicine is to actually suggest to use those technologies, so deep learning and all associated pipeline, in order to actually accelerate and make the process of drug discovery more efficient. So I can come to that in more detail. So to understand exactly how we position the company, it's important to understand that the process of making a drug is relatively long, so it can take between 10 or 15 years and cost like up to $2 billion for one new molecule. So basically you can divide the process into two parts. So you have what they call the early stage drug discovery, and then the drug development itself. So early stage on drug discovery means you have a disease, you want to find a new treatment for it or a new compound. So you need to understand this disease first. You need to identify what could be inside the body, the right target you could use to actually solve this disease. Let's summarize it in that way. Once you have this list of target, which can be protein, enzyme, or something like this, you need to find a new compound, which can be already no compound or something else, which can be used against this target to modulate or solve the disease. So this is what they call, to find the lead, actually, what could be the right drug. And this process is very critical because this is where basically we identify the target, and then what would be the set of compounds which later will actually be reduced and will give you the new drug. So what happens is that once you have this done, you enter in what they call drug development itself. So it means when you think you have a good drug for a good target, you go into a preclinical stage, and once this is done, you have a lot of clinical studies which are very expensive, take a lot of time, where basically they check different aspects of the drug, so the efficacy of the essentially toxicity, the side effect, and then the efficacy of the drug itself, of course. So this process takes a lot of time, and they realize usually very, very at the very end of the process that they are in trouble. So either the drug demonstrate too many side effects, is not effective enough, and they have to stop the development process. But at that stage, they already spent a lot of money, resources, and so you have a lot of compounds at some point, which they still have them, they don't know what to do with them sometimes. And so the idea, what we want to do is to actually use new technology, combine new technology in order to actually optimize the first step of the process, so the drug discovery. So it means 3 steps. Try to identify new kind of targets which are more effective. Come with a new compound which have a better activity profiles, less toxicity, so which are more adapted to be a drug, and perform this process in a much more faster way and in a more cost-efficient way than the more traditional process. So that's basically one of the core business of the company today. So we had a lot of success recently. We released a lot of publication demonstrating that we were actually able to perform all this process from the target identification to the generation of the compound in less than 45 days. And we were actually able to collaborate with the companies to actually test this compound. So in silico validation and in vivo validation to assess that actually the compound we have found, generated actually, was actually interesting. And so now there is another thing is that when I say we found a compound, what we're actually doing is that we are able to use this, what they call this deep learning method. So they call that generative adversarial network, for example. So is that using all this information about the target, about already known compound, what we're able to do is that we can generate from scratch the structure of a new compound which elicits the right property for against the specific target we are interested in. So basically we are able to optimize using only computational methods a structure of a compound in order that it will have the right activity profiles, but also the right reduced toxicity and so on. So this is actually the core of the process, is that we actually accelerate the identification of the right compound by using essentially computational methods which are based on the generative power of the latest version of deep learning models. So that's the core what we are doing at Insilico Medicine currently, and the goal is not only to come with new molecules which are generated using computational methods, but also we are in partnership with major companies around the world in order to be able, for example, to synthesize those compounds and demonstrate that they're actually the right compound for a specific disease. So we hope that next step will be to take one of those compounds and probably go maybe in the next step. So drug development, maybe take one clinical trials, probably, but that will take also some time. So I hope.
Yeah. Definitely. And something that, well, you just mentioned there that the FDR, and obviously I assume that you have to deal with the regulations when it comes to health. When I was in Europe, I found out that when it came to medical startups and companies, people decided to go into the US because Europe has apparently more strict regulations when it comes to medicine. What are the challenges that you are finding out when it comes to getting approved, the methods and the research? Because as you say, like, it takes a lot of time. There is a lot of things that are in place to make sure that people don't go crazy with medicine and the research. So what are the, let's say, what are the most common problems that you are finding out, or what are the struggles when it comes to trying to develop this kind of technology and this kind of research when it comes to medicine?
So I think in general, when it comes to try to take a drug to the market for humans, so we are talking about both in US, in Europe, and even in Asia, you have a lot of regulation which are in place to make sure that you come with a drug which is suitable for the patient, right? So the fact there is regulation is a good thing, and I think it's needed. So what happens in Europe, I think they also have a lot of very high competitive environment. So for example, Switzerland, you have major pharma companies which are actually established in Switzerland, in other parts of Europe, in France and Belgium. You have a lot of them. They are doing a very, very interesting job and have some results. I think the key problem is, and I think the FDA itself, they have all this regulation in place, Of course, it means that if you want to go into clinical trials, you need to follow very strict protocols and regulation. But I think the main problem they have is not related to the regulation itself. So of course, it makes everything longer and sometimes less straightforward. But I think what they realize is that once they arrive at these critical steps, so clinical trials, they arrive with the drug, the compounds, they begin those tests and trials, and they just realize that it's not working as expected. So that's a major issue. And today most of the pharma companies, they are basically multinational, so they are global companies. So they might be you have some based in Europe, some are based in the US, maybe other in Asia, but they actually work internationally, right? We can collaborate for a specific company, you can collaborate in different countries. So, but still, globally, they just end up, spending a lot of money, and then they don't get the results they will expect. And the fact is that the clinical trials themselves, they are also very, very expensive. So when probably, they have a drugs, okay, they take it, preclinical stage, everything is fine, then they go to clinical trial phase 1, for instance, they pass that one, and then phase 2, it's blocked because something is wrong. So it means at that step, they need to stop everything. It's a huge loss for the company and for the patient are waiting actually for those treatments. So I think it's not really, the problem is not related to the regulation itself. It's probably needed. So it's more two things which are very important, is how you can optimize the early stage of drug discovery, as I already just described. And because you are integrating new kind of methods, which are computational methods, the big problem then maybe, the big issue is to make sure that the regulation which are in place, when you have regulation, they regulate what already exists and the kind of method which already exists. They cannot predict what kind of method could appear a few times later. So at the regulations, from this perspective, I would say that both in Europe and in the US, what is important is to make sure that those regulations are adapted to allow actually drugs or findings which are based on this kind of new technology to be actually to allow them to go to move forward in the development clinical stage. So maybe today the regulation body are not always very well adapted, or they're not even aware of the new possibilities which come with those technology, and they might be it might be necessary to adapt some of the regulation, or to understand that there are new ways to actually perform the discovery. That's what I would say.
Nice. And something that pretty much caught my mind is that many people are seeing artificial intelligence from the, let's say, more commercial angle. Like everybody is talking about Amazon Alexa or Google Duplex or things like that. And I have seen a lot of friends thinking that artificial intelligence is still a long way behind, and sure, it's just starting out, but I'm seeing a lot of uses for artificial intelligence that are not that famous and that are actually quite complex. I have seen a couple of startups developing artificial intelligence to take better financial decisions when it comes to companies that pretty much handle logistics through a lot of countries and shipments. I have seen companies that are using even artificial intelligence to kind of, in factories, to kind of predict where some component will fail, at what time, and at the same time combining it with augmented reality or virtual reality, so that when the technician gets there to fix the component, they can see in live video how to fix that component, so they don't have to kind of remember the trainer or something like that. I have seen I have seen a lot of uses for artificial intelligence that is very complex, and I will say that what you're doing in Insilico Medicine is one of those cases, because as you mentioned, the human body is like incredibly complex, and as well as you mentioned, like some configurations that I have is different from the configurations that other people have in their own bodies and things like that. And I think, as well as you say, that if it were for humans to try to identify all this information about the body and try to find these markers, it will take a long time. But now with artificial intelligence, I think it's going to be way faster, and I'm really excited because I think you're going to be finding many interesting things in the next years. So what I want to ask mostly is that how do you see the stage that the artificial intelligence have right now, and do you think that people are right when they think that this is still like artificial intelligence has a long way to go, or they are wrong and it has been, I think it has been, even though there is a lot to grow, there is a lot of room to grow, I think it is at a point that is good enough to handle many complex tasks. So where can you give us a little bit more feedback on what do you think about the stages of the artificial intelligence and how and pretty much how you're planning to develop that as well?
Yes, so there are many things we could say about that. So I will start by saying that today you have a lot of scientists, company, organization who are talking about AI. So AI now is like the bird expression everybody wants to use to get noticed. So now in practice, sometimes I know when I was at a conference, they ask questions because they're confused what is AI, and I think in practice what you're actually doing when people are talking about AI depends on the application. So the basic behind the current AI is in drug discovery is most of the time using those deep learning models. So it's various tasks and flavor and architecture of deep learning essentially, which is a type of machine learning. So it must be understood that it's always as hidey. So you have data-driven methods. So or you can use the data to understand a situation. It can be within the body, it can be, to understand how the stocks in a company will evolve and so on. So it's use the data to understand the current situation and maybe make some prediction considering the knowledge you have about the situation, how the situation could be evolving in the near future. So try to make prediction based on the data you have. So initially deep learning, it was essentially very successful when it comes to image recognition, for example. So now you have a lot of devices which can recognize images of different types, and a lot of them are based on different type of deep learning models, actually. So initially, and because of this very, very specific success, a lot of organizations and scientists decided to try out to see how they could use this new kind of machine learning methods for different type of application. So now the fact is how far we are regarding the potential and the current status also depends on the complexity of the task. As we mentioned, when it comes as application in healthcare, it's very complex because we are talking about understanding a complex system. Now you have, in healthcare you can probably, maybe for example, clinical trials. So how to organize a clinical trial, how to track the progress of the patient, which are, within this clinical trial, you have actually a lot of computational methods which are based on deep learning, which try to actually optimize, for example, if you want to organize a clinical trial, so you will have to select what patient you want and which one you don't want on some kind of criteria related to the condition you are interested in and what kind of condition each patient should meet. So you can use actually deep learning to use all the patient record you have on the patient and build your patient cohort in a more faster and efficient way. So you can actually optimize the way you design clinical trials. And this is currently done in many hospitals. They have this kind of system. So that's an example which is very well advanced, for instance. So now when it comes to drug discovery, you have a lot of methods based on deep learning, for example, to predict new target, to understand how, for example, what protein can interact with what can, protein-protein interaction essentially. There are also a lot of interesting success in that area, but again, I think the complicated part is that you have those technology and you need to adapt them to the very specific needs of the application you are looking for. So, and obviously when you try to apply deep learning, artificial intelligence in the field like drug discovery, it's much more complex because not only, the task itself is really complex, but also you need to take into account the consequences of what you are doing. So when it comes to cure diseases, and that's where basically the regulation come into play. When you have image recognition or you use deep learning to classify or identify what would be, you have companies basically, they have podcasts or video and they will try to predict what would be the best video a specific individual would be more interested in. The consequences, if the algorithm is not working perfectly well, are not that bad. Okay, if the one who is basically watching the video is not happy with the list he is provided with, basically you can choose something else. So and basically the provider will understand that he needs to adapt the service. So when it comes to drug discovery and come with drug or target for when you need to actually test in vivo and then go to clinical trials, the consequences of any mistakes is much more bigger. So you need to really understand what you are doing and how you are doing. So one of the specific issue a lot of teams are currently working on is how you can actually make prediction of deep learning methods interpretable. So initially a lot of criticism against deep learning was that it was seen as a black box method. So black box mean in a way that you know what kind of data you are using as an input, so the starting point of the process, and you see what is the result, so what you get as an output. But it was very difficult at the beginning to understand how the model is providing this output in terms of the kind of input you had at the beginning. And so it makes a lot of people uncomfortable at the beginning in using deep learning, because when you do science or in the field of drug discovery or any other this kind of application, it's not only important to have good prediction, but also to be able to explain how you got this prediction, right? Because from a scientific point of view, you need to understand what is going on. And for example, in clinical trials, it's also important if somebody wants to participate in a clinical trial, for example, and he got rejected because the algorithm says it does not meet the condition, it's important to be able to explain to this patient why he's not suitable or why he is, actually. And this can only be done if you are able to understand how the model is actually generating the prediction in terms of the input you provide. And this is currently, you have a lot of research in this area, so you have many methods which have been created so far to actually make all these models more interpretable, so you can really understand why this protein is better to integrate with this one, and this kind of questions which are very specific to this field and much more important in a field like drug discovery than maybe in other applications. So again, I think in general you have different, it's really important. When you have AI, you can imagine you have different type of algorithm depending on the kind of application you are looking for. And in different area maybe they are already very far, and maybe in other area a lot of work still need to be done. So I think it's really depend on the kind of application you are talking about.
And when it comes to developing these algorithms and all that, I recently interviewed a guy who created an algorithm with new neural networks that allows to eliminate the pretty much the background noise and to keep focusing on the voice. I'm actually using that app right now. So, but he mentioned that he had to hire a lot of people who were mathematicians to create the algorithms that they were going to use for the intelligence of this app in order to be able to detect what was noise and what was voice. And I'm guessing that the algorithms that needs to be created for kind of figuring out these markers in the human DNA are much more complex than separating voice from background noise. So how was your experience in finding the right people to develop these algorithms? I imagine that it was hard, but at the same time, I would like to ask you what was the experience on hiring or managing a team of experts that can focus on this, but at the same time, I can imagine that not all the members of the team at Insilico Medicine have the knowledge of creating artificial intelligence or these algorithms. But again, like something that happens in entrepreneurship is that we need to be able to find out people who are capable of handling these things and being able to be a good leader to those people, even though if we as a leader don't understand what they are doing. So what was the challenge when trying to find out and create these algorithms and trying to find out the right people to create them?
So I think you have currently two types of challenges. So if you are talking about developing this kind of methods pipeline as we do in the field of drug discovery. So the first one is the one faced by any company who is working in AI, to find the right talent. So it's true that so you need essentially it's most of the time mathematician, computer scientists to have the skills to build this kind of models. Now you can actually have a lot of tutorials which basically can teach you the basis of this kind of technology quite easily. So, but you need to find this type of person. And this is actually a first step. Then the fact is when you are talking about application in drug discovery, it means you are dealing with drugs, with biology. You need to have a good understanding of the biology of the disease. It means you need biologists and clinician basically. Then because you are working with drug it means it's more, chemical compounds essentially. So you need to have chemists in your team which are able to actually identify what structure is best on what and build actually the criteria which can be used by your model to select which you're interested in. So you have, I would say, three types of people. So you have those bioinformatician biologists which focus on the biology of the problem, the biology of the disease, and so on. You have the chemist, structural chemists who are actually able to understand, they have a good knowledge of the molecular chemistry, structural chemistry, so they help to actually build the filter to decide on what basis the model should create the structure and how it should be done. And then you have those mathematicians and computer scientists who will actually build the code itself, so they are coding. So you need to aggregate to have a team with this kind of skills. And now I think one of the challenges is that you have very high skilled scientists with a very different type of background. Okay, of course. You can have biologists, they don't have any skills in deep learning, for instance, that can happen. And somebody who's very, very good at deep learning, building models, maybe has no good understanding of biology, right? If you think about studying mathematics, you don't maybe know all the details about biology. So you need to be able to make those different type of person interact together. So communication is a big challenge. So you can actually build this kind of project, manage this kind of project, making sure each team understand what they have to do and how they can present and interact with other teams which maybe have not only the same knowledge but also a very different way of thinking. Because when you go at university and you apply for any kind of studies, what you are studying also shapes the way you think and the way you will think about how to solve a problem. So obviously when you have all these scientists all together, it's interesting to have to make sure that they are actually able to understand each other and come with a solution for a problem. So I think that's probably the specific challenge when you want to apply such a specific and complex technology to a very complex problem, which is actually aging. So you need to be able to build bridges between scientists who are interested in solving the same problem, but maybe thinking differently.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. And well, now coming back to the age prevention thing, there has been a lot of research that has been done in the last years. I have been able to find people who are doing research to kind of expand longevity in humans, others who are trying to find out a way to stop aging completely, and some who are even trying to find out a way to reverse aging so that, for example, right now I'm 34 and the idea is that if I have this medicine, I will be able to take it and bring my body to the 20-year-old body that I used to have. And when it comes to these areas, I understand. Obviously, people want to be optimistic about it, and they are saying that we're going to see these breakthroughs in the next 10 years. I wanted to ask your opinion about, first of all, do you think it's going to take 10 years or do you think it's going to take a little bit longer? And also, what will be the goal that you have and your team has? Is it to stop aging? Is it just to bring longer longevity to humans? Yeah, I wanted to see what do you think about these things.
So we can say many things. So this idea of fight aging, or at least slowing aging, so it has been ongoing for probably more than just a few decades. So I think it's a very old dream. Human head, they would like to not get too much older and stay very young. So now, so you have many scientists, many kind of organizations which are involved in promoting this kind of ideas, finding a solution to this kind of problem at different level. How you see aging, how you define aging. So, for example, currently you have a lot of discussion, should we consider aging itself as a disease, for instance? Because currently, for example, aging is not seen as a disease, right? So you cannot, for example, I think, try to have a drug on the market and claiming that this is a drug against aging. Usually they will expect to have a drug against a specific disease to solve a specific condition which can be associated to aging very closely, but not against aging itself. So this is probably a question. So are you defining aging not only from a biological perspective, which is still an open question, but also how you define it according to regulatory standard, for instance. So now, what is going to happen? I would say that currently you have a lot of data available, you have a lot of new technology, and you have progress which is made. But I think it's important to distinguish some kind of thesis which will pretend that in 10 years we will be like being able to live 1,000 years. Personally, I don't think it will be the case. But what is true is there's currently a lot of fundamental research. For instance, I'm thinking about stem cell research. So they were thinking about using stem cell to regenerate some part of the body. So a few decades ago it was like a dream ongoing. Now they have in some clinical trials and they start to actually use this kind of technology to solve very specific disease or condition for which this technology can be used. So you have progress, but I think at some point so you have individuals which will describe this fight against aging or so on in a very radical way, I would say. But I think in practice, there is progress every day, but it's more incremental, I would say. So if you compare the situation in 10 years with the situation today, or 10 years ago, with the kind of technology which is available, the kind of what is the understanding of aging we have, and how we can use this understanding of aging and the data we have to actually come with some treatment against specific condition associated to aging, I would say that there has been a lot of progress, and you can expect that in the next decade and so on, you will have much more progress. So this is coming. But I think it's not like a radical like disruption, like like difference between the day and night. Okay, so you just see a progress because a lot of fundamental research has been done, a lot of data, scientific data has been generated, and now a lot of scientists do what the best they can to actually make sense of this data. And combining this information with the technology, then they start being able to actually bring into the market treatments or technology which can contribute to slow down aging or fight or cure specific condition associated to aging. So that is the reality. I actually see the situation.
Nice. Yeah, I think that again, there is a lot of hype about this, and as you say, this is probably like a dream of mankind since mankind was set up into a civilization. I think there will have been through all the history many powerful people who will have given everything to try to stop aging or trying to make life longer. But I think that people forget that that it was not so long ago where we will not live that much. That medicine has evolved pretty quickly in the last 30 to 40 years and has allowed us to improve a lot of our quality of life. There was, well, even if I see my family, that they had been able to take operations, and they were sometimes even I had some was ill some at some point where not so long ago that illness would have killed me, but now we have penicillin, and and because of that I'm alive. And it was, even though it was a very painful shots that I had to take, it's nothing compared to the fact that I would probably be dead right now if it wasn't for it. And my father was able to take a surgery in the eyes that didn't exist before 2010, and because of that he was able to keep seeing. and 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 this is what I don't think people understand a lot, that it's not like, oh, okay, take this pill and you're going to live, I don't know, 20 years longer. But it's actually about that, okay, you have an illness right now that usually will have you killed, and then you can take some medicine or you can get an operation, and now you're alive, and who knows how much longer you're going to keep being alive because of that operation or because of that medicine. And even my mother was very sick at some point, and if it wasn't because of medical advancements, she would have died when I was like 9 years old or something like that. But she was still alive because she was able to take an operation. And even though it was an expensive operation, my father had to sell his car and go into deep debt to pay for it. But again, like, we have our mother here, and we were able to come out of those debts in the end. And there's definitely not a price over there that we will not be willing to pay to save our loved ones. And yeah, I think that this is the thing that most people don't truly get, that because they think, oh, like, if they think in the future, like they say that they will not like to live longer and that they will just rather die at the same age that everybody does at 80, because they are thinking that if they go longer, they are going to have a lot more problems, let's say, which would have been a very fair assessment in the past. But even if I see right now, so for example, my grandmother, when she had 60 years old, she already had all her hair white and she had a lot of wrinkles. It was kind of uh, the living image of what you will think a Christmas grandmother or something like that, like a very old person. And you will see her photos when she was 60, and she will look very old. And again, my mother is now 64, and if you see her pictures and or her right now, she doesn't look that old at all. Like, and this is what people don't get, that as medicine advance, we also advance our quality of life, so that what was meant to be 60 years old in the age of our grandparents, for my parents right now, like they are both 60, and they look so much better than my grandparents did when they had that age. And we probably are going to look much better when we have 60. Like right now I have people who have 50 years old, are in their 40s, and they look amazing, and they have like they take care of themselves physically. They are ripped. They are doing things that they were not being able to do when they were 20 years old. And people are thinking, oh yeah, I would not like to live longer. But let's be honest, once we are there at that point and we are sick, nobody's saying, oh yeah, no, I'm just going to die now. Like, I'm just taking the choice to die now at this age. No, like everybody's going to take their pills, and everybody's going to take their medicine, and everybody's going uh, to pretty much go to the hospital if they need to, if they get sick or something happens, because they're going to be in the present that at the present, nobody of us wants to die. So uh, what have you been able to find this kind of let's say psychological challenges when you try to explain this to people, that what you're trying to do, or are you finding more the excitement of people saying like, yes, oh yes, like I want to live longer?
Um, I think it depends. Myself, I know a lot of scientists or even activists who are actively promoting the idea of expanding lifespan in general. So they see the capabilities, of technological capabilities, advances in medicine as a very good thing that in the near future an individual, if he's willing to, will be able to live probably longer than it was possible a few decades ago. So I think it's, you have what the technology will allow, and also what individuals want. So I know individuals, it's not they don't want to die as soon as possible, of course, but they're not looking, so they try, it's also, as you mentioned, how you, so how you can, what kind of environment you have around you, which make you will live longer or shorter time, of course. So they understand how they can protect themselves, or how they can make sure that they age, but in a healthy way. But they're not especially looking to extend this life like 200 years. So I'm not that excited. So I think it's more about personal opinion. So you have individuals, definitely they will do everything they can, will pay for everything they can pay to extend this life, and maybe other ones, they will try to enjoy the life as much as they can. They will take care of themselves, which is, according to me, is the best way. If you want to live longer, you just make sure that you take care of yourself as good as well as you can. So it depends on the individuals, but also what they have access to, because those technology and medicine. So currently, maybe they will appear, but you can expect that initially many of those treatments will be much more expensive because of how much it costs to actually develop them. So it's probably the way with everything. So today I think everybody can have access to technology or even medicine, which a few decades ago was, if they existed, were only affordable for a very restricted number of individuals with a lot of resources, I would say. But yes, you can see the different approaches. So you have the one who would like to live longer at any cost. The one who just are not, it's not that they don't want to do that, but they are not necessarily looking to actually pay for treatment, which maybe extend their life for 5-10 years if there is no need to. So I think it's all, at that time, I think it's a matter of personal opinion, what you want for yourself also.
Yeah, definitely. Because I guess as well that people think that if they're going to live like 200 years old, they're thinking like, why am I'm going to be decrepit, I'm not going to be able to do anything. But again, I think there is a lot of things to answer there. But if you say like, okay, you can live up to 200 years old and you're still going to have like a nice body or good enough so that you can be independent and function in society, then that definitely changes things. And I think it's going to be, if we are able to do that to extend our longevity, this is going to be like a game changers in a lot of points of our society. Because let's say even if we are able to not go that far, let's say we're just able to go to 120 years of living, that even has to change the model of the pensions, because now we have to answer the question of, okay, are we going to be working longer, a longer amount of time in years to get more pension, or what are we going to do? Like, and that's just like the simple questions without going further into everything that it means to live longer. And following up with this, as you mentioned, this kind of businesses and this kind of research takes a lot of time and usually take a lot of funding as well, up to billions, you mentioned to me. And this is part of the reason why I wanted to create this interview series, because we have the business that we have, we usually help technology companies to create videos that they can explain their products and services, and pretty much what I wanted to do through these interviews is to understand more the needs of the people who are kind of developing these new technologies. First, because I wanted to see what's coming for the future. Second, because I want to understand better the needs of the people developing this technology, so I can create a better service. So what I want to ask, and we have helped, for example, companies in the past creating videos so they can use the videos to pitch the idea to investors. But what I want to ask from you is that what are the challenges when it comes to pitching this kind of idea to investors? Because well, many of you are creating technologies and new solutions that have never been done in the past before. So in your case, where again, like, research takes a lot of time, and you're probably going to have solid results here in maybe 10 years, 15 years, things like that. What are the challenges that you're facing with trying to get more investments and trying to get your investors to understand what you're trying to do, and again, like, explaining that you're trying to do something that has never been done in the past? What are the most common challenges that you face in the face of that?
I think when we want to explain what we are doing to anyone, is that because we combine very, it's a complex technology for a complex problem, I would say. So it's sometimes to make sure individuals understand what we are doing. And, because it takes a lot of time, it's important to explain to any investor that, when we are talking about developing drugs, we are talking about an area where you have a lot of companies doing this and with a very low rate of success. So in the past, I think there have been a lot of attempts, or where they came with new ideas, thinking that they will be able to actually solve all these issues which is faced by drug discovery today. And so it's important to actually come. You have many, probably sometimes individuals will be very, skeptical about the fact that this technology could be actually successful in that area. So initially, it was probably very, very difficult to talk to scientists or professionals in healthcare, because they could not truly understand that this kind of technology could actually bring very important progress in that field. So you have one point. And the other point is that because it's a very complex field, okay, and when it comes to drug development and the discovery, you have only very key big players who can actually do that, right? It's not any small companies who could actually take a drug and take all the clinical trials and so on. So I think it's important to convince that big pharma companies of all potential which actually offer this, which can bring this kind of new technology. And I think that there is currently a positive trend, because now I see when we are going to conference, we meet some actually representatives from big pharma. So they listen to what we suggest quite seriously, and they are open to, in some cases, to find a partnership or actually take your service. But I think I think it's a matter of gaining credibility in a field where basically less than 10 years ago, the first time we were the first company to publish a paper where basically we were describing this idea of using deep learning to generate structure of chemical compounds. It was 6 years ago. And initially, it was like an empty field, and now you have a lot of scientists and teams which actually which are actually working in this area. So I think it's important that representative of pharma companies and investor, and also representatives of the regulatory body for FDA, to make them aware of the capabilities of those technology, to make them open to actually integrate them fully in the way of thinking and the ways they actually design drugs and how drug discovery can work. So there is a lot of work to actually convince those organizations to be open to this kind of new technology as well, I think. That's because drug discovery, it's very expensive, it takes a lot of time, and so you have a very high risk. So if you are looking for short-term, very high return, of course, this kind of area is very difficult, because it will take a lot of years basically to see actually that this kind of technology is definitely successful. And so I think developing this kind of technology for drug discovery, for even fighting aging in general, is a long-term battle, you see. So you need to think long-term, and you need to think to find partners, investors, scientists which are capable and willing to invest on a long-term basis. Even if, of course, we can organize to see exactly what they expect at different time point, but it's all about a long-term development and evolution and transformation of a field which has been working on the same pace for a long time, I think.
Nice to know. So to be closing this interview, for anybody out there who is hearing us right now, there might be somebody who is like very talented and who is looking into going into entrepreneurship and creating their own startup and trying to create something that has never been seen in the world before. What would be your words or your advice to those persons who are still not 100% sure about going into this path?
You mean creating a startup in general or
Yeah.
specifically
Yeah.
in general? I think currently trying to be like going in this direction looks challenging. Myself, actually, I created this before working for Insilico, a small company. Actually, I was consultant of my own in very specific area. But I think the most important when you are thinking about that is to really think about an idea concept, try to think about it, so to build it, and come with a good story, I would say. So it's not only about pretending to do something very new which has never done before, but coming with a proof of concept that it can actually be done. Can you do it, yes or no? That's a big issue. So if they want to develop the idea to start a company and to be really successful and to convince investors, they need to come with some kind of proof of concept. That's what they are thinking about. They know how to do it. And in order to achieve that, I think what is important is also to be able to talk to the right people. So they should probably go to specific events when they can meet some investors, some entrepreneurs, some scientists who actually open has the same way of mind. So creating something new from nothing and being able to interact with new individuals, new scientists, investors who are capable. It's not only taking the risk, I think, because usually we associate creating a startup with taking risk, but I think in reality it's more have a good understanding of what you want to do, how you could do it, have a good understanding, where you want to apply this. Okay, so you are usually not alone in any field. Okay, even in discovery, in any kind of field you want to create a startup, you will have always some other kind of services, and come with a realistic expectation of what actually how it could be done. And I think yes. So talk to the. I think it's also to make those connections with those individuals, because what I wanted to say actually is that basically this idea of creating your own startup, and in all fields, doesn't matter what is the purpose of the startup. I think this mind is very is very different from if you want to go to work for a big company, well-established one, and take a standard job. So I think if you stay alone, basically you can feel very isolated. So because it's very difficult to convince as well of what you are doing and why you are doing it. You will have in Belgium, for example, or in the big countries, entrepreneurship is not necessarily the most obvious pathway. Maybe now you have a lot of changes, but at some point it's like unusual. So sometimes, so it's very important to understand this and to go in events to meet individuals which are actually open to this kind of process and kind of professional life, I would say.
Nice. Thanks for letting us know that. And if people want to find more about Insilico Medicine, where would be the best place to do so?
We have a website, so the easy way is we have insilico.com, so they can directly go on the website and have an overview of what we're actually doing. On YouTube, we have different videos where we actually describe what we have been doing. If we are talking about individuals interested in science, we have actually more than 100 scientific publications. All of them available on the web, so NCBI or PubMed or so on, so they can actually read them and understand what we are doing, how we are doing it. And yes, we can keep in touch if they are interested, of course. So we are always looking for scientists and innovative or creative people which are interested in the specific area. And so we are working in different locations. We have a location in the US, we have a location in Moscow, St. Petersburg, Taiwan, Shanghai, Hong Kong. So we are open to actually Also, there are scientists in all those locations as well.
Awesome.
So,
Thanks a lot for being here, Quentin. I know that it's very late over there, but I really appreciate that you have taken your time into explaining us everything that you're doing, the goals for the future for Insilico Medicine. It really means a lot to me that you're here giving us your knowledge and your advice.
okay, thank you very much to you for organizing this wonderful event. I was very glad to be able to speak and present what we are doing at Insilico Medicine, and I'm looking forward for our next.
Awesome.
Okay. And
So,
congratulations.
thanks a
Good
lot.
luck for you.
So if you have liked, this has been the last episode of Level Up. If you like it, please click the like button below and also click the subscribe button. Or if you're listening from this podcast platform, then click the button subscribe so you can be notified for the next episode. Until next time.